Welcome to the Level Up Your Band podcast, episode 69. Hello, and welcome back to the Level Up Your Band podcast. My name is Gavin Patterson, and I'm here with Julian Pombo.
Hi.
We're in the studio once again.
In the studio again. Oh, it's so much better.
Yeah,
so much better.
Coffee.
Not only the fact that I get to actually see you and react to you in real time, but the fact that I can have your delicious coffee.
There's no Zoom lag.
No, there's no Zoom lag. We should probably... I was thinking about this on the drive up. Because as I was driving up, I was thinking about, oh yeah, I gotta have Gavin's coffee. And I was thinking, everybody and their grandma and their grandma's dog is releasing a coffee company, so that might be something to think about in the future. Level up your band coffee. Level up your coffee.
Well, there might be something in the pipeline. Yeah, maybe. Because I roast my own coffee, so I'm toying with different ideas. I'll just leave it at that. So today, today's episode is kind of brought about two things. So last week we were talking about this topic in general, and I think about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I thought it would be a laugh to do, I never told you this, to do a personality test.
Oh, yeah. Like the
Big Five.
Yeah.
Ocean. Ocean being OCEAN, so openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Yeah.
So you answer this questionnaire and it tells you what...
Not the Enneagram, that's the one that everybody's doing.
It tells you kind of what traits you have based on your answers.
Yeah.
And I am extremely not prone to negative mindsets. I don't tend towards negative emotion very often, which would suggest I'm low in neuroticism. And then when I did this test, I was like 8 out of 100 neuroticism. So it's like extremely low.
Wow.
Like mega low. And there was someone else who was doing the test with me and they got like 87%. So it's like...
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would explain a lot. So... Yeah, I thought how much of that, like, someone being like, what do you call it, adverse to negative emotion is to do with that.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
We should do that. We should do that next week. I'll do the test. I won't tell you my results, and I'll bring them in, and we can share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's today's about overcoming negative mindsets. So even though some people have the chance or the potential for maybe viewing things more negatively than others, there is still a way that you can actively try and change your mindset. Obviously in the context of a band, it's really hard for, I can see that it's hard for people. It's never really affected me. Maybe when I was like 15, 16, I was maybe slightly more neurotic. But everybody is.
Everybody kind of is, because hormonal changes and there's all sorts of, your brain is getting rewired a second time.
Right.
That's genuinely a thing. So like your brain starts developing rapidly, like in your very early years, and then it does a total reset again once you hit puberty, which is why teenagers do a lot of dumb things. It's particularly, I think it's your frontal cortex. Yeah, is the one that gets a lot of attention put on it, which is why teens are You
Angsty?
know, well, no, it's got more. It's got more to do with like risk taking. So it's why they make really
Okay.
drastic, stupid decisions.
Well, you need to be able to do that at that age, because if you don't take any risks, then you'll just remain stagnant.
Yeah,
You need
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
you know, when you're early and you're robust,
Totally.
you're physically robust and mentally robust, you can make all these risks and go places that you wouldn't have gone if you had been
And yeah,
stable.
exactly.
Like there's some choices I may have made when I was 18 that I wouldn't make now because I'm 29.
So many things that I've said, that I'm sure people have totally forgotten about now. But like, yeah,
That's what
totally.
annoys me so much about like just what people say in general. They, someone gets judged on what they say, but if you ask them again, they might not even agree with themselves.
Oh
like,
no,
later
because
on,
people like
change
people
their mind all the
change.
time. Yeah.
So like, I am not the same person today that I was, 2-3 years ago. It happens that
I'm not
often.
the same person as I was when I woke up this morning.
I mean,
Just groggy
sometimes.
I know. Ask me a question when I'm just straight up, and then ask me again at 1 p.m. later on in the day. It's a totally different answer. Yeah. Cool. So we're going to go through 4 negative mindsets in particular that plague musicians and creative people and artists.
It's artistic types in general. Yeah.
These are the ones that I've seen crop up again and again. So the 4 are victim mentality, imposter syndrome, fear of missing out, and low self-esteem.
Oh yeah.
So the big 4. I don't know. There's probably more, but
yeah. But I mean, like, yeah, those are the ones I'm thinking about. FOMO, I don't really care about, but the other 3, yeah, definitely encountered that at some point. You know,
FOMO's a weird one because I had it maybe when I was starting out, like maybe when I was about 18, 19.
Yeah.
You get this anxiety that you're not in the place that everybody else is, and you're just like, oh my god, I'm missing out. I don't get that anymore. I don't really care anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just doing my own thing. But yeah. So we'll start with victim mentality.
Yeah. The example that you gave, I was just like, oh, yeah, that's me. And yeah, it's totally, yeah.
So a victim mentality is a state of mind in which a person feels as if they are the victim in a given situation.
Yeah.
Whether they are or not.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you are the victim, but I mean, it's how you deal with it. I mean, if you're not a victim and you think you're a victim, that's bad. But if you are a victim and you also think you're a victim and you act like a victim, that's bad as well.
It doesn't. Yeah,
it doesn't help. So I've got an example here, or 2 examples. So I'll lay out a situation that is happening. So for example, nobody is booking your band for gigs. Right, so a person with victim mentality would go, all the booking agents and promoters are corrupt and they treat bands like trash.
Yes. It's a total scapegoat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just put the blame on something which I agree with a lot of that statement, but it's just not.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Doesn't help though. You know.
There's a truth. There's obviously people wouldn't think like that if there wasn't a kernel of truth behind it.
Yes.
I'm not saying that it's a total lie and all promoters are all like perfect angels.
Oh.
But like there are bad people around. So I think you just need to accept that exists, and you just have to. There's no point dwelling.
I guess I fear things, but I feel that with victim mentality, that particular strain of it anyway is kind of always accompanied by, and I think I was prone more to it when I was younger than I am now. It comes along with a certain level of naivety as well, Aye.
Yeah.
So
So the sort of rational mentality instead of victim mentality to that situation would be, nobody's booking your band for gigs, and the rational person would say, we probably aren't trying hard enough to get the band's name out there, and we need to show them that we can sell tickets. Now, if in fact the promoters were corrupt, fine, they're corrupt. But if you try really, really hard and go the extra lengths to make sure that you'll be able to sell tickets, they will have no choice but to book you, because they'll be missing out on a lot of money. So you can even use people's selfishness against them in that situation, rather than just going, I'm not going to do it because they're all horrible and they just hate us.
yeah, they are horrible. It's not they don't hate you, they just don't care.
You can get around that by skipping over them and going directly to the fans. And if you've got a demand and people want to come see you, that speaks volumes.
Totally.
Rather than just sitting and wallowing. It's not advisable. So I've got another example. Now this one I see almost on the daily on Instagram and Facebook and stuff.
Right.
And it annoys me every time I see it. So the example is Spotify pay artists poorly for streams.
Yes. See it.
It's a fact. It's a truth. It's a truth. So the victim mentality would be, Spotify are oppressing and stealing from artists, and the music industry is totally destroyed, and we deserve reparations for the amount they have stolen from us.
Yeah, I've seen.
Doesn't that sound bitter?
I'm not. I've seen big names and people I know say this, and I'm like, okay, but as if Spotify is going to care.
It just stinks of the same attitude people had when people stopped selling albums, like big vinyls. And went on to CDs. They're killing the vinyl industry. This is a terrible... Just things change, man.
Yeah. It's the same thing with... I think we've mentioned this before, but like horses and cars,
Exactly.
Like people in newspapers were like, oh, cars are far too expensive to run and they break down all the time, whereas they fail to mention that horses take up a lot of space. They
die all the time.
They die, Sure, a car... Well, a car... After a certain point, I feel like, there's a little bit of, because like you have a look at Cuba, sure, they don't have much of a choice, but they've got cars that are still running from like the 50s, so it's totally doable to just keep a car running for as long as you like, as long as you've got the parts.
Yeah.
So
it was actually more easy to keep a car running in the 1970s than it is now.
Yeah, because cars are really complicated.
Exactly, all filled with computers and stuff.
Yeah.
I occasionally lift the bonnet in my van just to have a wee look, because I like cars and engines and how things work, and it's just all cables and wires, and it's just complete. Like I'm fixing up an antique tractor. It's 70, 80 years old or something, and it is the most simple thing you've ever seen in your life. It's just unbelievably simple and incredibly well designed, and it's fun because I don't need that much knowledge or level of skill to be able to fix it.
But that was the point, wasn't it?
That was the point, yeah.
And it's kind of, you see the same thing with guitars as well. Like the whole point of the Telecaster and the P-Bass and stuff like that was that it was very easy to manufacture and very easy to fix up. But yeah, anyway, beside the point, that was a fun tangent. But yeah, I've seen people... who I respect say this, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, but
yeah, I mean, it seems to be the way it is. I mean, look at it this way. People like people forget that while it is harder on the artist in the sense that we remember when we used to get paid for people listening to music. Whereas now we don't. That's terrible. But look at it this way. Spotify figured out that the market's changing. No one is buying music, or we have technology now that people don't have to buy music. They can stream it for a subscription service.
Yeah.
We are going to be the first to do this, or the first to make it the most popular. There were other people doing it too.
Yeah.
And they're basically, the reason why Spotify are doing so well is because they're serving their customer base extremely well. You can sign up to Spotify and get pretty much the catalogue of every musician for the last 200 years in your pocket.
More, like 500 even, like everything is up there.
Pretty much, yeah. Podcasts as well. And that's so valuable to people who love music and love podcasts, and it's a big thing. It's a good product. You can't deny that. That's why people use it. It's so good.
I mean, the only people that are going to be buying music are like the proper audiophiles that want to download, like, the FLAC files, like a really high fidelity. Like,
I've never listened to a FLAC file.
No. The highest quality recording I've listened file is probably a wave file.
Maybe this says a lot about me, but I've listened to my own music that I've made in this studio, in this building, on Spotify after it's been released, and compared it to the raw files I've got on my system where it was mixed, and I've A/B'd them, like Spotify, then the file, Spotify, then file. Obviously, the Spotify settings, I've set them all up to max. I can't tell a difference.
There you go.
There's no difference in my ears. If there are any differences, they're so minute that, maybe a bat could tell, but we're not bats. But
no.
I don't know, people are funny about that.
Yeah.
So basically, instead of being so bitter and resentful about how things are changing and how things are going, why not use your brain and think of a way to try and overcome this?
Yeah.
So one example that we've thought of, well, we've not thought of it, we've seen other people do, and we're advocating people to do this, like, just think. So that we can recoup some of the cost for the album production, why don't we release the album early to supporters and then release it to the streaming services later? So, the thing costs, you've just done an album and it costs you $2,000 to record. Why don't we put it up in Bandcamp or our own website?
Yeah.
You can get a Wix account for not very much money and get an online shop, and you can sell MP3s or downloads or whatever on that, or Bandcamp or whatever.
Yeah, or even like physical stuff, because people will still buy it if you give them a good reason to buy it. Yeah,
Nobody has CD players anymore, sure. So you can sell a CD, put a little code in the middle of it, sends them to a unique page somewhere, and they can download the files or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But my point is, yes, it is harder now to make money selling music than it was 15 years ago. But we've only been buying and selling recorded music for 100 years. That's been generous.
Yeah. Probably like more like 80 or 70.
Yeah.
Properly,
So, I mean, are we really surprised that it's still changing? I'm not surprised. Technology's changing all the time. Like, why are we being so bitter about things changing? Things change all the time. This is a new thing we're doing. This buying and selling of recorded music has only happened since basically the 20th century. It was invented in the 19th century, recorded music by people like Thomas Edison and people like
wax cylinders and
but
stuff.
That didn't really come into, like, people didn't start buying and selling in a big way until the 20s and 30s and 40s. Like, nobody owned a record player.
No.
And then it had a massive boom in the 60s, 70s and 80s and 90s. And the 90s was the most amount of money made by the buying and selling of music ever.
Wow.
and it was CD sales. It's now tanked. We're now at the lowest it's been for decades because no one is buying and selling music anymore. They're now streaming. It's just the model, the system, the business model has changed.
Yeah.
The same way cinema is dying. Cinema is dying. These Marvel things, these Marvel movies that were coming out and they were doing all this stuff, big movies, it's not happening in the same way anymore. They're now releasing TV shows and putting them on Disney Plus and Netflix. That's where the money is. Models are changing. People aren't going to cinemas and they're droves like they were. I remember I used to go to the cinema as a kid, maybe like once a month. There's a local cinema down. If anyone lives,
like cinemas are very much a special.
You know the big showcase cinema down next to the M8.
No, I don't actually.
So it's kind of it's on the M8 between Glasgow and Edinburgh.
Right.
Big massive place. I used to go there in the 90s.
Yeah.
And big massive car park right around it, and it used to be chocker full. Like it was like £4 a ticket to on a Tuesday to go and see Toy Story or something. And huge place. I mean, the big floor. It's like a massive. It looks like a shopping centre. It's massive. And it's got like 18 screens or something. It's ridiculous. And we used to go there. The place used to be packed all the time.
Yeah.
I went just before lockdown on a Saturday night. The car park was not even an eighth full.
Wow.
There was nobody there. It was completely dead. We watched. It was actually Toy Story, incidentally. It was Toy Story 4 or whatever it is. And the movie had only just come out like 4 days prior. And the cinema we were sitting in had like, out of a 250-seater, 300-seater, and there was like 20 people there.
Yeah, I remember one time I went with Rachel and it was just the two of us in the theatre.
Yeah.
It was kind of great. Because it meant that I don't talk a lot, but I like to commentate sometimes.
Bear in mind, in the 90s, when we went to the cinema, we had a TV about, what is that, like 18-inch?
Yeah.
Yeah. An 18-inch telly, tube telly, 480p. Right? With
not even widescreen.
It had a mono speaker in the bar. The remote control was a brick. It was that thick, that wide. And it used one of those Duracell 5-volt or 9-volt batteries, whatever they are.
Oh, right, yeah.
This thing, you had to hit it to get it to... We only had 4 channels.
Yep.
And then Channel 5 came out in like 1999 or something. We went to the pictures because it was like, whoa, big screen. But now everyone's got 50-inch screens. It's like...
Yeah. Like
what's the point? And surround sound. Your parents have got a massive TV.
Oh, my dad loves that kind of stuff.
And he's got a really, really good sound system.
He's got an incredible sound system, and he's got, I don't know if it is 4K, but...
It's 4K.
It's 4K
It's
TV.
3D and 4K.
That's ridiculous.
It's just amazing.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, like there's no need for it anymore. In fact, like cinemas are more... I'm thinking of things like the GFT, Glasgow Film Theatre and stuff. They're just becoming more specialised, like the Grosvenor and stuff like that. Right. It's like the commercial cinema is, like the big mainstream cinema is definitely dying. Yeah. But like the weird, artsy... doesn't serve as many people, like it's a premium price cinema. That's becoming more popular, you know what I mean? But yeah, and it kind of goes back to the whole, like, yes, people are streaming music, but when they do buy physical copies, it's kind of the same thing with the cinema, they buy vinyls with loads of art and extra stuff, because they're not necessarily, they're probably just going to display the vinyl somewhere, which is why nobody releases just a regular black vinyl anymore. They're like green or translucent or
red.
Some weird pattern, like...
I've got one on my wall that's bright red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. So, yeah, the victim mentality thing is just... Things have always changed. Things are always changing. And if they don't change, things get really boring.
Yeah.
And stagnant. And I can't remember who said it, but it was quite funny. It was like, if nothing ever happened in your life, if everyone was just the same all the time, you would end up you would just destroy something just for something to happen, because human beings need change, and you need if you don't have anything to overcome or adapt to, or it just becomes, what's the point? What's the point? Like, although you can sit there and go, oh, woe is me, you know, everything's all terrible now, or you can just pick yourself up and just go, right, how can I change and adapt? I mean, COVID has done that for me, certainly. I can just go, oh no, it's all shut down and this is terrible. Blah. Or I can go, oh, this is a big wake-up call. I'm going to see what I can do. So if this happens in the future, I'm not going to be stuck like I was in 2020. That's the mentality you have to take. We've all got a little bit of victim mentality sometimes, but...
Totally, yeah.
So, yeah, moving on. Imposter syndrome.
Oh,
big one.
Oh, that's I'm an expert on that one.
Right. I've had it a little bit occasionally, not much.
I mean, it's not as, I don't think I suffer from it as bad. It still happens. You know, it's definitely a thing that I have to constantly wrestle with on a very frequent basis. But before, imposter syndrome was what I defined myself by, you know. But
number one.
Anyway.
Yeah, so
give us an example.
For those of you who don't know what it is, imposter syndrome is a state of mind in which the person feels as if they don't belong, like they don't have the skill or talent to be there.
Even though they most likely do. It tends to be that the people who suffer from imposter syndrome are qualified or more than qualified.
Yeah.
You know? I think, but yeah.
Yeah, imposter syndrome would be you have the ability and the skill to be there, but you don't think you do.
Yes.
It's the opposite of Dunning-Kruger, which is you don't belong there, but you think you do.
Yeah. Yeah, which is exactly.
That's worse.
You read a Sun article about vaccines, and now you know everything about vaccines.
Yeah.
I watched a 3-minute YouTube video.
Now
I know that Bill Gates is coming to get us.
So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Now, these examples I have had happen to me.
Yes.
So you are asked to play a gig where the skill level of each player in the band is high.
Yes.
I've played loads of gigs like that where I've been asked to play drums in a band, and everyone in that band is really good.
Yeah.
And that's intimidating.
Yeah.
So the imposter syndrome person would say, oh my God, I shouldn't be standing beside players like this. These guys are so much better than me. I don't belong here.
Yeah, I've had that. This is a funny story. So this was is a really good sound engineer, bass player, Gus Sterrett in Scotland, and I was recording in a studio, and for the first 15 minutes, all I was thinking was, mate, you should just be recording it. I'll just leave. You're better. No, and then I had to, and then after a while, I was just like, no. Person that has hired me to play bass knows that I can play bass, you know, and it's not necessarily anything. It's not about him being better than me or whatever. It's, you know,
you're the guy.
I'm the person that's been picked. I'll just do my job, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But that was a classic. That was a classic moment for me. I was just like, oh.
Yeah, I played, still do, well, not for a while, but thanks to lockdowns and stuff, but I used to play in big bands quite a lot when I was 18, 19, all the way up to fairly recently. And when I first joined one, I'd never played big band music before, ever.
Yeah.
I'm not a jazz drummer. It's just amateur stuff. I am not a jazz drummer, not by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know what kind of drummer I am. I just kind of do my own
You're
thing.
a good drummer.
I just drum in time, and that's it. I can't do all the chop stuff and like the fancy schmancy techniques and stuff.
I can't do most of it either, but that's all
I'm
it is at the end of the day. It's just chops.
I'm a song drummer. I just drum like Ringo is a song drummer.
Right.
So he just drums to the song, and he does what is necessary to make the song work. I would say that's kind of what I am.
I mean, I'm sure people that have watched your drum cover of Octavarium would disagree with your.
Oh, that's just imitation. I'm just copying what someone else has done.
That's anyway.
I mean, like, all those jazz drummers are like mental with their rudiments and all that kind of. I can't do any of that stuff. Back when I was like 18, 19, I was asked to play in a big band. It was a guy. I was playing in this like amateur band, and there was a guy, a sax player in the band. He approached me. He's like, "Oh, I'm starting up my own big band. Would you like to play drums for me?" And here's me, like 19, like I don't know anything. He's, "Why do you want me?"
Right,
kind of thing. And I just said no because I was like, "No, I'm just going to disappoint the guy. Maybe he thinks I'm better than I actually am or something." So I just didn't bother. So I waited. I waited like 6 months, and he hired a mutual friend of ours to play drums for him. And for whatever reason, the guy couldn't make the gig, and he obviously asked me because I was his first choice. This guy was like 10 years older than me as well, and very experienced drummer. But he chose me first, so I was like, okay. So he got me in to do this dep gig, and I played this dep gig, and he never asked the other guy back. So I ended up playing like every single gig for 10 years. So it was at that point I was like, okay, this guy actually wants me here.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, right. So I mustn't be that bad if he keeps asking me back. So maybe, because I spent extra close attention trying to make sure that I was staying true to the big band style and the music and trying my hardest to. It's really hard as well because it's such an old style of music. Trying to find videos online of old big band drummers from the 40s. Like, it's really difficult to find that stuff and to tell what they're playing because the sound quality is so dreadful.
Yeah, not to mention that drummers, for the most part, weren't the star of the big band.
Not at all,
it was always the piano player or somebody in the horn section, but yeah.
The only exceptions to that would have been like Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich.
Yes.
Who were the stars of the show.
If you haven't heard Buddy Rich's the bus recordings, oh boy.
Oh boy, yeah, that's the right phrase. So I eventually just came round to the idea like, well, he asked me to be in this, so he must like what I've got to offer. And I thought that the guy he got to replace me was better than me, but he wanted me over him. So I was like, okay, because this guy studied jazz. Yeah. And I was like, it just made no sense to me. So I kind of, I might not be as. I had a little bit of imposter syndrome, like definitely, straight up. But yes, second example, I see this quite a lot as well. You're in the studio, you're in the recording studio, and the rest of your band and the sound engineer know much, much more about the recording process than you do. So they're all chatting amongst themselves, talking about XLR cables and high-pass filters and loving life, right? And you're sitting there going, it may as well Greek. You may as well just like listening to someone who's speaking Greek, and you just have no idea what they're saying.
Yeah.
So the sort of imposter syndrome would be like, oh, I feel like such a moron. Once I've finished playing my part, I think I'll just leave, go home. I can't contribute to the conversation because I'm just too stupid.
Yeah. It's not just like I've definitely experienced that in a lot of like if somebody's having a very somebody's having a very in-depth socio-political, conversation, and I'm like, I don't actually think I know that much about it. Best thing to do is, rather than sit there and go, "Oh, I'm really stupid," because you just don't know. So ask questions, and if they do, I don't know, sneer or make fun of you, then
Yeah.
don't hang out with them again.
No.
Because they're clearly, socially inept at that point.
Yep. So I take pleasure in answering people's questions if they have any questions about the recording process.
Totally. Like I find that a lot with my students anyway. Sometimes they ask questions, and I think it's something that happens when you get older. You end up, rather than just asking the question, you preface it by going something like, maybe this is a stupid question, or this is a stupid question. And it's just like, there's no such thing. You just ask it, and something because you never know. Like, I'm trying to think of an example of a stupid question. Can't think of one at the moment. Maybe there isn't. Well, there must be. There has to be a stupid question out there somewhere. But yeah.
What color is this red car? That's a stupid question.
That is a stupid question. Actually, yeah. There you go. Something that is just completely nonsensical. But
so the sort of, like you're saying, instead of the imposter syndrome response to that would be, oh, I'm just stupid, I may as well leave, I'm not going to bother, I don't belong here, I don't know enough about this. The rational mindset would be like, I have no idea, I had no idea that how complicated this process was, so I'm going to ask someone how this process works. Maybe I can learn how to do this at home.
Yeah.
That would be cool if I had my own setup at home. So maybe I'll ask the sound engineer, oh, like, what are you doing just now? And how do you record the microphone onto a computer? I don't actually know. Oh, that's how you do it. Okay, what kind of cable's that? Right. Oh, I'll maybe take some notes because I want to have my own setup at home. This is quite interesting to me. Blah blah blah. Whatever. That's kind of the kind of mindset you want to have. See, when I was, again, 17, 18, kind of similar thing. I was in a covers band the first time I ever went to a rehearsal studio, actually. So I was like 17. It might have been younger. I don't even think I passed my test. So I was like 16, 17 maybe. And they were all talking about, it was gear related in reference to a song. So they were talking a little bit like pedal boards and stuff. And I had no idea what any of those pedals did. I just didn't know. And they were talking about like song composition, like what should we do at this point in the song? Like we were jamming. What should we do here and there? And I was just sitting there in quiet silence, like I have nothing to contribute. I don't know what to suggest. They're talking about like, oh, we should go back to the D major section and then riff on that and blah blah blah. And I'm like, they were all like talking for like an hour like about this, and I'm just sitting there in the background like, I just don't belong here. I'm totally out of my depth. Blah blah blah. And if I had came forward and said, look, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, can you explain to me what do you mean by this D section? I don't know what you mean by that. And what do you mean you're going to stick on a phaser at that particular? What does that mean? Like, they would probably be fine with it because guitarists love to nerd out on pedals. So
yes,
but yeah, you learn that with. Well, I learned that with just age and doing it.
Yeah.
So 2 more. This one's probably a little bit shorter because it's not really. I don't know. Yeah, FOMO.
Right.
So fear of missing out. This is when you feel an inner dread that someone else is getting to enjoy an opportunity whilst you sit on the sidelines. So an example would be, my friend's band has just played a gig in front of 20,000 people at a festival. So the fear of missing out person would be, oh, that should be me up there. Why can't we get a break like that? I feel so anxious that I will never get there. Right? So... yeah. We've all had that. Like, where you look on Instagram during the summer when it's not a pandemic,
Yeah.
and all your pals and all your friends who all have bands are all on tour around Europe, and they're all having a great time. You're sitting in your boxers playing Witcher. Like, hey,
I mean, that's
literally me.
yeah, it is literally me right now.
Nothing wrong with that. Witcher's
No,
a great
totally.
game.
It's a great game. But yeah, that is it's such a resentful, bitter way of looking at things.
Yeah.
You know, especially if it's a friend as well. Like, you should be happy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a good thing. You know, it's so weird that I guess it makes sense, but you know, you'd think that we would think past that and be like, man, I'm so pleased that so and so has done this or has managed to do this or whatever, rather than sitting there going, I should be doing that. My worst, I have definitely been that person a lot, and being retrospective about it, it's one of those things, and I think this applies to all of these kinds of thinkings, is that it just creates a feedback loop, and then you get stuck in it, you know, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and it's just
Spiral.
yeah, especially so yeah, you just need to stop that if you're thinking like that, you know.
The whole thing with FOMO is like, you need to remember and recognize that you are on a completely different path from literally everyone else on earth.
Yes.
And where someone else is, oh, I'm 28 and I've never played a tour, and yet my pal John is on his second tour and he's only 21.
Yeah, so what? Bill Withers didn't get a record deal until he was in his 40s, and he was still building toilets.
Right.
Even when he got his record deal and he was touring and stuff, because he didn't trust it.
Yeah.
It was just like, I'm still going to hang on to my airplane toilets. That's what he was building.
Right.
And he built that even when he was performing music and stuff, he was still still working that job.
Oh.
You know, I'm thinking of other bands like Sonic Youth. That's another good example. They didn't get any kind of recognition until they were all like, you know, sort of in their like mid-30s. You know, before that, and they had been playing the grunge scene for years and years and years and years and years. American football, like we did an episode on that. Yeah. They recorded an album. They went their separate ways. They didn't think about it. They're now in their sort of late 30s, early 40s, and they're gigging all the time.
Yeah,
you know. So
it's almost pointless to compare yourself to other people.
It is, because you don't know what's going to happen, and when opportunities are going to arise, you may be lucky, and I would highly dispute lucky in this situation.
Yeah.
But like, you know, you start gigging at like 15. 16, you know, but I can't think of any musician that has started gigging that early and it hasn't had some kind of adverse effect on them in a long term, you know. So just keep, best thing you can do is just persevere and keep trying things and keep playing, and just keep going. You know,
try not to compare yourself to other people. Just compare yourself to yourself. And am I further ahead towards my goals than I was yesterday or last week or last year? and that's kind of weird. That's the only thing you can compare reliably.
Yeah.
And if you're doing worse, figure out why.
Yeah.
Figure out why. It may be obvious, maybe not obvious.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been playing the grunge scene or whatever, playing a scene for 10 years and you're not making any headway, try and figure out why. Why is that? Are people not hearing about you, or is your music rubbish? Is what is the like? Just figure it out. It's rather than going, oh, look at them, they're doing so much better than me. Their music's terrible. Blah blah blah. So last example would be, everyone in my scene is taking part or attending a festival or a gig tonight, and I'm busy and I can't go. So the FOMO person would be like, can't believe I'm missing this. This would have been a great opportunity. Never going to get this again. And I'm going to moan all night and resent what I'm doing with whomever I'm doing it with. So you see this a lot. I've been friends with people like this where they're missing out on something because they're doing something else, and they do nothing but just moan and bitch all night to whoever they're with. It's like it's as if you resent even being there because you want to be somewhere else. That's not fun.
Yeah.
We've all done that. Where you're like, oh, I really don't want to be here, and I'm just gonna do everything I do with contempt because I just want to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's not good. Whereas a non-FOMO person would be like, okay, it's fine, I'll catch the next gig, plus a couple of my friends are there, so I can maybe catch up with them after, if it's a big festival or something, and you've got some pals who were there networking, you can speak to them and see what they were able to do. Or if you don't know anyone there, you can catch the next one, or, you've just got to remain positive. If you can't make an event or something, something else will come along. I'll give you an example. My mum won a thing in a competition, but she entered a raffle, and it was this quite expensive prize she won, and she realizes that we can't use it, so she's going to sell it. So she's going to sell it, and the thing's worth like $1,000, right? So, and someone offered her like 500, and she was like, oh yeah, I could just, that'll be good. I mean, that's £500 more. And I'm like, well, you got a response in like 2 days. You can wait for the next opportunity. It's not like, again, it's like if you go into a car, if anyone has ever bought a car, you always go into the car place, and like Arnold Clark or something, and like, oh, it's just as well you came in. There's a car just perfect for you, and it's limited. This price will not last forever. And you could literally go in at any day, any time of the year.
And it will be,
and it's always the last car, always the last price. You're never going to get it for this price again. And it's all lies, because the opportunities are always there.
Yeah, I've noticed this with guitars as well. They're like, and it's always with a guitar that are really struggling to sell.
Yes.
They're like, oh, we've got this incredible blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
don't lie to me.
No.
No, you don't.
I can smell that it's crap. Don't.
When I went to get the van I've got just now, it was like that. They pretend as if it's that's what they're using FOMO against you.
Yeah.
That's their job as a salesperson, is to create a fear of missing out in the client.
Yeah.
So I went in and they were like, oh, this van is, say, it's part of the last deal. We've changed all our prices now. This is on the last roster of prices, so you'll get this for a lot cheaper, blah blah blah. And then they fired out the price, and it was like £50 a month dearer than what I was paying on my last van, and I was just like, no, I'm not paying that. Oh well, that's the low price. It's now going up to £90 more than you paid. I'm like, I don't care. It's the same van as I had last time. I'm not paying that. I was like, I'll just go to rental. Bye. And they were like, okay, well, we can do it for this. I was like, well, why didn't you say that right from the get-go? That's dishonest.
Yeah.
Right. And just nailed the guy. And I was like, bye-bye. And I just hung up on him. And then he came back and he lowered it even further. And I got it. I was like, don't mess with me. Like, I know your tactics. It's just bull.
Yeah.
And managed to get my van for like £70 a month, cheaper than what he quoted me.
Wow.
And I've had it for 3 years. Well, I will have it for 3 years until I hand it back. But it's like there's always another opportunity. You think, oh, this is it. This is the make or break. It's never like that. It's incremental.
Yeah.
And don't worry about missing out. So, last one, low self-esteem.
Right. Classic.
So,
I'm also an expert in this field.
A feeling of inadequacy. You don't believe that you can achieve the goal that has been set, and even if you achieve the goal, it won't be very good anyway, so why try? That's kind of...
Low self-esteem and impostor syndrome love each other, by the way.
Right.
Don't know if you realise.
Yes. They're kind of overlapping.
Oh, yeah, no, like when you have a combo of the two, it's lovely. No, it's awful.
So...
It doesn't help.
This is a fact, a thing, a wee story. This is the truth. I have enough music written to record a solo album. That's the situation. The person with low self-esteem would say, I'm really worried that the sound engineer will think my music is terrible. I don't even know why I'm recording this stuff. It's terrible and no one will listen to it. Right. High self-esteem would be, I cannot wait to get this stuff recorded. It'll be something to be proud of for years to come. Can't wait for people to hear it. That kind of... So, yeah. So, go for it.
With low self-esteem, it's just it's tough. I think the first step, and I think this applies to all of them, is actually sort of acknowledging the fact that that's a thing you're predisposed to, and then you can work from there. You know, it's never as it's never as bad as you think. It's never like with music anyway. You're not going to know until you actually put it in front of somebody's face, and people aren't going to lie to you.
Yeah.
You know, people will make it very clear if they don't like something. You know, if they don't understand it. You know, people aren't. You know, people don't sit around and go, "Oh, that's great." You know,
I had one of the worst cases I've ever seen of low self-esteem was there was this. I got a phone call from a guy just to book the studio. He's like, all right, mate, I want to book a recording session with you. It's a female singer. She's 11 years old. It's my daughter. And she's a really good singer. I'm like, oh, yeah, here we go. Oh, my daughter is really good, and then she's not. But he's like, I'll send you over some videos of her singing. And she was excellent, really, really good. I was like, oh, this could be quite fun to do. Like, she's never been in a recording studio. And then he's like, but she's not got the highest self-esteem. She's a little bit anxious and nervous. I'm like, oh, don't worry about that. I'll be fine. So we make a booking, and then they come up to the studio. So get a chap at the door, and he comes in. I was like, where's your daughter? She's in the car. She doesn't want to come in. I was like, oh no. Right. So he was showing me some videos on his phone because they had been talking about it or whatever, and she was practicing a particular song. And really good, excellent singer, really, really good. And I couldn't get her out of the car. So I went up to the car, and I was leaning through the window, and I was like, hi, I'm Gavin. How you doing? I've heard some of your videos, they're really good. You're a really good singer. And she's just sitting there all clamped up, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And he had to leave. She just couldn't find it in her to just get
physically
out of the car and try it.
That's
even just to come in. I was like, you can just come in and we can have a drink of water or something just to see the studio and just have a wee sit down. We don't have to do anything. No, couldn't get out of the car. I was like, that's horrendous for some people who have that such low self-esteem.
That's another one. Anxiety and low self-esteem really really like each other as well. I think, what was I going to say there? At some point, I think that's with a lot of these, but at some point you do kind of need to take a step back and kind of think, do I need help with this? Because I've gotten personally, but this is me as an individual, and even then, there's a couple of things that I'd still like to work through with a professional. But I've found ways to deal with them, and But if it's that bad that you can't even step outside and talk, talk to somebody, even there's something going on there psychologically. I've definitely noticed. I can't speak from experience because I'm a man, but it's when I was doing my teacher training, girls, especially around that age, 11 to probably about 14, 15, it's really bad.
Yeah.
Low self-esteem and stuff like that. And this kind of ties in kind of perfectly with something I mentioned to you before we started the podcast, because it's about what we're exposed to and affected by, just generally. This is something, if you're if you suffer from any of these things or all four of them, seek some kind of clinician, psychiatrist, some kind of medical help, professional help like that. Don't listen to the listen to the podcast, but we're not psychologists. We can't help you in that respect. But something that I noticed is that there's so much, and I think it's gotten worse. We're exposed to so much negativity all the time, and I'm talking about not just it's everywhere. There's always something wrong all the time. Now, that's not to say that some of it isn't true, right? But it's gotten to the point where I can go onto my phone and I can see everything that's wrong with the world, right? Nobody cares to tell you about the good things that are happening, because good news is just not as popular as bad news.
That's right.
I don't know what it is about humanity that's just so predisposed to seek out negativity like that. We're just drawn to it.
I think it's because we have evolved to try and find out what the problem is, because there's virtually no end to, you can be ultimately happy, sure, but you can be dead. So if you can identify the things that might lead you there, that's going to be a big problem for you. So we are wired to notice negativity more than positivity, because we could be dead. It could be really bad. Yeah, we know how bad it could be.
Definitely, I think it also depends on certain cultures are more predisposed to negativity than others. I would say that in Britain, anyway, it's even with the way that you this is taken from Bill Bailey, but he's got a really good point. When you ask somebody in America or Australia or anywhere else and you ask them, oh, how are you doing? Oh, I'm awesome, right? In Britain, it's not too bad, all things considered.
Yeah.
How pessimistic do you have to be to say that you're doing really, really well and you're quite happy? I'm not too bad, But so one thing that you can definitely do is just be aware of how much negativity you are absorbing. You know, it could be a person, it could be certain relationship. I'm not saying that you surround yourself in a bubble of positivity and affirmation, because that it doesn't help either. Bubbles, it's basically any kind of echo chamber is bad. You want to have a good ratio of like healthy criticism and positive affirmation and things like that, you know. And it's the same with the media that you're consuming. So it's all very well to sit there and listen to people tell you about how we're all doomed, how bad society is, how terrible and corrupt everybody is, how persecuted people are all around the world. Sure, yes, I'm sure that a lot of that is true, and it's sad and it's tough. You know, and it's even little things. So, like, as an example, I know somebody who was watching a lot of really, really bad self-esteem, and I was paying attention to the kind of things that they were interacting with and listening to and watching, and all of it was negative commentary about a specific group or something that was happening. It was all like, look how terrible this thing is, look how awful it is. And it's like, I mean, why at some point, you know, it's just like, okay, sure, but you can acknowledge that the thing is terrible. You don't have to sit there and watch an hour-long video about like, look how terrible this person is, or this thing that is happening somewhere is, you know. I don't want to be taken out of context and say that like the world is all you know, rainbows and kittens and everything's lovely, because there's lots of horrible things happening all the time.
And
but I feel like now it's gotten to the point, like if you think back to 50 years ago, you know, even further than that, you know, so a farmer up in like or a farmer in like the borders of Scotland would have no idea about, you know, atrocities happening like somewhere else in the globe. The most, like, the thing that you would be concerned they would be most concerned about is, you know,
how many sheep did I lose
my
this
sheep
year?
healthy? You know, like, should I get more cows? You know, how are my potatoes doing this year? You know, stuff like, you know, and now
tend to the things around you before you tend to
exactly. Now we're all like sitting here going like, there's kids starving in Africa, and you're almost paralyzed because you actually can't do anything. I can't do much about that. I could give some money to an organization that could possibly help with that, but that's about as much as I can do, really, realistically, unless I actually go there myself. But even then, how many children am I gonna help in that case? You know, I could go there and I don't know anything about planting crops, but I could go and I could attempt to plant some crops. Great, so what?
Yeah.
Bit of a long-winded rant there.
It is actually very similar to the victim mentality thing. It's all baked in.
I think, especially now, we are very much predisposed to. I don't want to get political at all, but we are, especially in the West, we are very conditioned to feel guilt about a lot of stuff that's happened, and it's like, okay, great, it has happened. Can we just please move on from that and see if we can move forward, rather than sitting here going like, yes, it was terrible, wasn't it? Like, how bad was that? And how bad all that stuff that is happening, it's all our fault. And that seeps into that will seep in slowly but surely, you know, and it will affect your self-esteem. It will affect how you feel about yourself. It will affect how you feel about the stuff that you're creating, so yeah, that's the rant over, I guess.
Yeah, good rant.
Yeah.
So basically,
Long story short,
don't do that.
don't do that, and also stop it. Get some help. But it's all about perspective, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, what I was trying to say in that rant there was just that we get too much of one side, and we really don't get enough of. We don't see the other.
No balance.
There's no balance. It's totally.
Yeah.
Scales are the scale. You might as well not have scales. So
get off social media.
Get off social media.
If you're predisposed to feeling this, if you're high in neuroticism, get off social media.
Yeah, just stop with it and put a timer on it if you need to. You can totally do that. It's interesting that all the latest updates for Android anyway. There's been so much well-being. So many well-being features being added to phones, which is great. I'm not, that's really, really cool that they've done that. It's amazing they didn't do it sooner, but I guess they didn't think. I don't know if they realized how much of a.
I think it's like other apps. You can get apps that can do that. So they're like, why don't we just do it natively?
Yeah, why don't we just do it natively rather than having people download this and that and the other?
Like say Instagram, Instagram's kind of, it's focused on slightly more positive things than negative things, whereas Twitter and Facebook are just complete cesspits. They're the biggest echo chamber you can find on the internet is Twitter anyway. I'm not on Twitter.
No,
never ever will be. But it's like Facebook, I don't even go on Facebook anymore to look at things. Instagram, I'll go on, and it tends to be the posts or people that I like, things that I always interact with, usually appear in the first 10 to 15 posts. So I'll go, oh, there's thing, like, there's the thing, like, and I'll like for 15, and then it starts to become irrelevant, then I shut the app down.
Yeah.
And I do that on all my pages, and I don't go any further than that. I want to support. There's certain people that I like, and I support them by sending them a wee like or whatever, or comment, and I'll do that until it starts to become all random hashtags and right, okay, off. So I'm on Instagram for 5 minutes a day, less.
I set a timer for Instagram for 5 minutes. That's enough time to check messages.
With Twitter, I'm just not even on it. Facebook, no. I'm only on Facebook if I've been sent a link to something or I'm browsing something on a group. Of it,
honestly,
there's some groups I'm part of, gear groups and stuff.
If it's really bad, like I said before, try and get some kind of professional help if you can. I know it's easier said than done. Sometimes it can be quite tricky. Sometimes it can be expensive, but at the very least, talk to somebody that you trust about it.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes along with the social media thing. Identify Norses of segativity. Spoonerisms are great. Acknowledge, try and see if you can pinpoint relationships that are particularly negative.
Yeah, does this make me feel worse?
Yeah, does this person make me feel worse about myself, or does this, that, or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. Yeah. Does X make me feel bad?
Yeah.
Then stop. Do something about it.
Do something. Yeah. It's quite a simple approach. It's an approach you can actually, it's pragmatic. You can do it right now.
Do it as soon as you finish the podcast if you can. Just make a list of think about
all the things that make your life worse.
Make your life worse, and do the same thing with music, band, whatever it is. What is actually going wrong? What steps can I take to fix it? You know, is this a thing that is fixable? You know, things like that.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah.
Actionable goals here. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're actually more sensitive to this than you think. If you can actually look at a certain situation, maybe it's a conversation you have with someone or a particular thing that you do, like you're watching a YouTube channel or something, and ask yourself after everything you've consumed, like whether it's a video or a post or a conversation, and go, do I feel better or worse after that engagement? And if the answer is worse, go, why? Is it something they've revealed about me that I don't like? Maybe that's something I need to work on, or maybe they're just being dishonest, or the post is just negative right from the whole thing, and it doesn't really accomplish anything.
Yeah.
Just you can evaluate it, depending on what it is. Because why would you surround yourself with things that make your life just a little bit worse every day? Because that spirals down really, really fast. You get gradually worse and worse and worse and worse. Why have your life filled with that? Like, why not have things that make yourself gradually better and better and better?
Totally. And do this with your band as well. You know, I've been in bands where sometimes you get members that are like, oh, doesn't that other band that we play with suck? And then somebody else, yeah, they suck. And then you start, and you know, if you notice that happening in your band, just be like, can we just not?
Yeah,
and don't even, you can be nice about it if you want, but I think it would just be more to the point to just be like, can listen to yourselves.
Yeah.
Stop that.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool. So,
band rivalries are a social construct. That's all I'm going to say.
on that note. So, if you're enjoying our rants in the studio now and on the internet, please leave us a review wherever you listen, and follow us on Instagram if you can be bothered.
If you're not neurotic enough. If you're not too neurotic, rather.
And go on the website. We have a half-decent website, levelupyourband.com.
Gavin made
It's all right. It's simple enough. It's got the podcast on it. It's got a couple of wee bits and bobs. It's got some downloadable PDFs, which we haven't added to in a while.
No, I need to get on that.
Yeah. Do some more music theory stuff or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what's in the pipeline.
We could do the personality tests. That'd be quite fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not so much about leveling up your band, but just be interesting.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do the personality test. Like, I've done mine, so I've got the results of mine.
I didn't need to do mine.
I'll send you the website that I used. It's not accurate, but it gives you
none of them
a slight indication. I mean,
I've done a bunch of different ones. I
always thought I was low in neuroticism, and then I did the test, and it was like really, really low. So I was like, yeah, it's obviously some sort of correlation here. So whether it's like exactly right, it's not what it's for. It just gives you an idea. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that long rant. I don't know how long we're at, but sorry about that. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.